Welcome back to the Cardiac Who's. This week, we'll be talking about the Richmond win. We'll take a look at Wake Forest and what to expect. And we'll talk to you a little bit about what we did like and what we didn't like about the stadium atmosphere. Stick around. We hope you enjoy. Again, thanks for coming back and listening to the Cardiac Who's. We're excited to have you here. I'm here with Sean and Mills. We got a lot to talk about. So let's just kick off with this Richmond win. It's a good win. It's an exciting win. Sean, what did you think about the Richmond win? What did you like and what did you didn't like?
Oh, man. It was exciting to be back in Scott Stadium and see Virginia football on the field. I'll start off by saying, yes, I'm excited for the win, but my optimism level has gone down a little bit after seeing the performance of the defense. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. However, I'm very excited to see how Calandria played. I thought he was excellent back there in the pocket, very poised, and he made the right decision.
Yeah, Mills, what did you like and what did you not like?
Yeah, so I know y'all two were at the game. I got to watch it from the couch. So, I think Sean kind of hit on it. It was Richmond. It was a solid start to the season. It's good to get a win under our belt. Can't say we didn't go winless this year, so that's a good start. But yeah, defense did look a little shaky, but we are getting a couple of players back for the Wake Forest game, so that should help with getting pressure to the quarterback. But guys, tell me about the attendance. On the camera, it looked like the students showed up, so that sounded good. The new scoreboard looked phenomenal from when they were showing it, but, what did the attendance look like for y'all?
Yeah, definitely Scott Stadium, the student side definitely showed out. Prior to the kickoff, it was a little thin, but man, right about kickoff and a few minutes after, it really filled up. It was very exciting to see. There was little room for any more people, and there was rumors that they weren't allowing any more students onto the hill. So that was cool to see. You also got to talk about that scoreboard. I, for one, loved it. It was massive, in your face. Everything you needed was able to be seen. The audio was excellent. It was just great. I enjoyed it, Ben.
Yeah, I just enjoyed being back at Scott Stadium, and the weather was, initially it was pretty nice. It was overcast, so it was nice to sit around there. You could feel the excitement going to the game, so I enjoyed that. And they really got off going to a good start, so I think the excitement was there from the get go, and it was until the rain came. It was a pretty pleasant atmosphere. Other than that, I mean, uh, there was some empty spots, but it was kind of spread out. And I do think there was a good energy there, but yeah, a lot of seats to fill.
The seats are empty to be expected. We were a 3-win team last year. So I think if we continue on a good trajectory, the seats will become full again. And who knows, some people might have been scared by the storm. Definitely after the storm, it was very empty.
And it was Richmond. So,
but enough about the stadium, enough about the atmosphere. Let's dive into this offense performance and what we thought. Ben, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So initially, we had high expectations. So I guess to start with the low points, Chris Tyree, we were pretty excited to see what he had to offer from the looks of it, and I'm sure Sean will delve into the numbers. I don't believe he had any catches and a few drop balls, but at the same time, I don't want to discount him and what he's going to bring to the team the rest of the year. Still pretty excited about him. Was a little surprised that we didn't see him with any punt returns. As far as quarterback goes, that's what we expect. So, walked into the game, he looked real smooth, real confident. He extended plays with his legs. That first pass, the trail, definitely you could see the trust there. He put the ball where it was supposed to be. It could have gone either way, but it was a good catch, good touchdown. Saw maybe a couple mistakes, but again, we saw what we wanted to see out of AC. As far as the wide receivers, there's a lot of talent. It looks like they spread the ball around. Great to see Malachi Fields really shine. We have high expectations that he's going to fill that gap that was left from last year's departures. So yeah, overall, I think we're moving the needle. Kobe Pace, we'll talk about him a little bit. He looked good. I mean, he looked strong, confident. I thought that the running game was balanced between the running backs as well. But I'm definitely going to look to him to really carry our running game for the rest of the season. Yeah, I mean, Sean, what did you think?
Yeah, I kind of going off the little intro segment there. Calandra, I mean, he looked like QB1 from the jump. The very first play, QB draw, and he took it for a good run there. And then the third play of the game is the 35-yard touchdown to Trell Harris. And he threw that ball before his receiver even got to the top of the route. That was a trust throw there, and it was an exciting throw. I mean, I think that's what we were expected to see from Calandria, and I think it's definitely exciting. I mean, Calandria, he showed a lot of growth. He didn't take unnecessary hits. He slid a lot, got out of bounds a lot. There was a couple plays that he wishes he could have the back. That 20-yard sack that he took unnecessarily. We were all screaming for him to get rid of it. He's still learning. He's a second year. He's going to grow from that. I think they've already had that conversation a few times. And then he only got knocked down one other time, and he got hit by his own lineman. But overall, I'm really excited about Calandra. The rushing attack looked really good. Kobe Pace and Xavier looked really strong back there. Both were able to break off a bunch of runs. I mean, we had a bunch of chunk plays in this offense. So just a quick stat line from Calandra, 17 for 23 with 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. And really, if you take away the 3 drops by Chris Tyree, I mean, that's 20 for 23 or 17 for 20. I mean, 3 passes, that's it. And one of them was a miss in the end zone. Could have been another touchdown. But overall, really good from Calandra. And I think it showed why he was chosen. Muskie got in 0 for 3 with the interception in 1 drive.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen AC, or Ant as we shall call him from here on, get in and get those last 3 yards just to get over 300 or at 300. But as far as Tony Musket goes, I feel bad. I mean,
we can't really judge him for that one drive, but we saw him warming up, and they were like, okay, let's see what he can do. And then he did nothing, and you want to cheer for the guy. He's on your team, but it kind of just solidified the choice. So
it looked like a timing route where the guy slipped and fell.
It was 4th and 4. He's trying to force something, but
Mills, what do you think?
So I think AC showed why he won the job from fall camp. I'm a Tony Musket hater, so it's just a proven point of why he didn't win the job. I'm with you, Ben. I wish Ant got the 3 yards. Just the stat line of showing a 300-yard passing day is a pretty good day. Really, my player, that I really watched was Malachi Fields. 5 catches, 100 yards receiving. He's definitely taking that lead role. And I think, Ben, you hit on it a lot. I was kind of disappointed in Chris Tyree. I don't know if it was nerves being back home in Virginia or, just it was tough. Some easy throwing balls to him. He was just dropping. So hopefully he bounces back and, shines against Wake, because we will need his speed against Wake. And I think Xavier Brown did really well in the punt return. I was excited about what he was doing back there. I think he did pretty well for what I think. And if he wants to take that lead as a punt returner, I'm all for it.
Hey, I'll touch on the punt returns real quick. So a lot of what Tony Elliott's been saying is that they were kicking deliberately away from Chris Tyree, so they were trying to avoid his speed. But Xavier Brown had 2 for 58 yards with the average of 29, with his longest at 37 yards. I mean, that's really good. I think you're seeing this more in the NFL. I believe it's the Rams who are putting one of their second string running backs possibly back as a kickoff returner. They want to get the ball in their playmakers' hands, and I think having Xavier Brown and Chris Tyree, it's going to make it harder for you to figure out who's going to return the kicks. And then even on the punts, you got Clary, who had some. Wasn't a whole lot there. We didn't see a lot. We saw 2 punts from Richmond, but he still was able to pick up to about 12 yards on those. So ultimately, I think we do have some weapons back there in the kickoff return. I want to talk about the ball was spread out through 9 different receivers throughout the game. Mills, what did you think when you saw the ball getting spread around the field that quickly to many different players?
I think it goes back to the knowledge of Calandra. He's reading his reads. He's making the right throw. He's finding the open guy. I don't think he really put the ball in any danger. I think that just goes in. He understood what the defense was going to give him, and he made the right read. And, when you're doing that, you're spreading the ball around. So And it keeps the defense on their toes because now they truly have to. You can't double team somebody if he's trying to. Like Washington last year, that's all we went to. So now, like, we got 9 guys getting the ball. I think that's I like that. I like that we're spreading the ball around. And I know it's Richmond. We got to remember it was Richmond. They're lower tier team, but it looked good as an opening weekend game.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we'd eventually touch on that. That is was Richmond, and so it was a hard sample to kind of take a look at what really our performance or where we're at based on the competition we played. Really, not sold on anything quite yet. So I'm not really sold on the offensive line and how well they're going to protect once we start playing bigger teams, better teams. Not sold on the running game yet until we start playing those teams again. So I do think there is a lot of talent with the wide receivers. I would not surprised that it was spread around as much as it was based on who we played against. And I think the same thing that you're going to see, and we'll talk more about that too. I think the same thing about Wake Forest, that we just didn't get a good sample size of what kind of team they really are and what we're going to face in week 2. But another big takeaway, and we'll talk more about Wake Forest, but another big takeaway, and I think this is one of the most important things, is no one got hurt. And you always get a little nervous when the rain comes down. You know what I mean? So that's a huge win that nobody got hurt in a game against Richmond. And I think we got to see a lot of opportunity for guys that may not get in a lot during the rest of the year, to get to see them and what they have to offer. I think we're pretty deep in certain positions, so that's always good. So,
but we also got to remember, like, why it spread the ball around a lot was our rushing attack. I mean, we were 37 attempts for 200 yards. Two touchdowns. Averaging 5.4 yards a carry. I mean, when you can run the ball successfully, they're gonna now stack the box, so it frees up the DBs
yeah.
1-on-1. So, I
And
mean,
everything looked real clean and crisp, which is another good thing to see.
yeah,
And I would say that I think if you take the rain out and you put Ant back in the fourth quarter, or he plays the fourth quarter, that could have been a 40, 50-point game, which I think would have looked great for us.
I definitely think
correct.
the rain changed a lot, but ultimately, Calandria just took what the defense gave him. He didn't force anything to try to make something happen. I think last year during the Maryland game, when he had those back-to-back-to-back interceptions, he was forcing something because he saw his team was down. He got the ball right away, and we went down and scored. I mean,
Yeah.
what are y'all's thoughts on seeing him being used more as a true dual threat quarterback? There's tons of RPOs out there. There's also quarterback keeper or quarterback options there for him, and then just designated quarterback runs. I mean, the first play of the game was a QB draw.
Well, I think they did that on purpose to get the nerves out of them. But no, I think you're right, Sean. I think use the kid's legs. He's got them. I mean, he's quick. As long as he's smart, slides, gets out of bounds, doesn't take on the contact. So yeah, I agree. It was good to see him run the ball.
Yeah, it definitely was. Again, first play from scrimmage was a run from him. So ultimately, I think they're treating it as a true dual threat, and it's going to be something that teams are going to have to plan for. And I think that run pass option is going to be huge if we can really get that, because he was throwing the ball out quick, little screens, little wheel routes. I mean, let's talk about the Jack Greasy play. That was apparently a broken play.
That was a
Where
busted play, they
yeah,
said. So
yeah, Jack just saw him in trouble and just went up the sideline and got the ball and made it work for him. I mean, that's a huge play for him, and it's good to see that name. So, any other final thoughts on the offensive side of the ball there? I mean, we've talked about rushing a little bit. We've talked about the
no,
passing.
I think we were pretty clean. I think we came out there. I think also just hitting on the rain one time is like being an athlete and you're stuck to you get hyped up for the game, you get into a rhythm, and then you're shut down for 2.5 hours. It's kind of hard to get back up for it. And I think the boys did a good job coming back out on fire because the first drive out after the rain, they scored a touchdown. So it was good to see them do that.
Elliott talked about that. He said they learned a lot from the JMU game last year, which we all know what happened last year
Go
after
Dukes.
after a big rain delay.
You can edit that out.
that
Yeah.
we ended up losing the game. And I think, like you said, it was huge to come back after the rain delay and score a touchdown. And then after that, I think they kind of throttled back. It wasn't the field was terrible. It didn't I don't think they were trying to. They were worried about injury risk or anything. It's just it seemed like they were like, all right, we got this in cruise control. Let's just trying to be easy and let's get through it. I mean, if you weren't there, you didn't even realize that there was no halftime, really. We ran the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, and then we took basically immediate timeout and rolled right into the third. So,
Which I loved, which it was phenomenal watching on TV.
yeah, it was quick, no downtime. You had 2.5 hours. So,
So let's talk about the elephant in the room and what everybody's really concerned about and what most of the fans are commenting on is the defense. So I've got a couple
Oof.
thoughts about that, but you
Hit
know,
it, hit us with it, Ben. What are your thoughts? You take the lead.
no, you guys go on ahead. I'll chime in.
I'll start. So, if you listen to the walk segment or on this one, the drive, I wasn't impressed with the defense. And we talked, it was Richmond, it's a lower FBS school, but ultimately you still got to show up. And it just seems like our defense struggled to get any pressure on the quarterback. And now Richmond game planned well. They blocked well with blocking schemes, and then they got the ball out quick. I mean, they were protecting him. But, I mean, it took until 5 or 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter till we got a sack. And I think we only had a few tackles for loss, and we didn't really get a lot of pressure on them. It was some where the pocket started to collapse. But, man, they did a really good job of getting the ball out quick, and I just feel like we didn't dominate their offensive line like I felt like we should have, especially with how many veterans we had on the defensive side of the ball. So you go into the secondary, I think we played great, but that D line is kind of nervous that we didn't get a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was I think my initial thoughts. I have very similar perspectives that you had, Sean. But I mean, Richmond is built to run. They're getting the ball out really quick. They're getting it handed off really quick. So I don't know how many opportunities we had to get to the quarterback. I agree with you. They should have been, you know, overpowering their line. But again, you know, I just felt like with a Richmond team that's prone to run, you may not see as many sacks. But I don't know. I still, I'm still not sold on the secondary either. You know what I mean? So we got a small sample size with Richmond because they don't throw the ball a ton, and so it's going to be interesting to see how moving forward and what they learned from that. So Mills.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest elephant in the room is the defensive line not getting no pressure or the linebackers. And also it didn't look like we sent a lot of blitzes. I think we were protecting the box and just waiting for that run. Like Ben said, they're known to run the ball more. I was kind of disappointed in my boy Cam Robertson. I know he was the one who recovered the football, but our defensive line didn't get after him. We didn't send many blitzes, and maybe that was the game plan. But one thing is we're getting a senior back, Bryce Carter, in fall camp. Elliott was high on him, so him coming back, hopefully that gets an extra level of pushing the
Fun fact.
what's that?
Fun fact, and you bring up Bryce Carter. When we were leaving the game, me and my sister, we spoke to his parents, and they were saying he's excited to come back and hit the field next week. So we saw him on the sideline. He's a Chesterfield native, so really cool tie in there. But figured I'd throw that in. But definitely glad to have him back. He's been a guy who's been around the program for a while.
I mean, also we had high hopes for just getting after the quarterback. That's the key. I thought the defense did okay getting off 3 and outs. But I would love to see what our secondary looks like, but I also just hope other teams just run the ball because I think Ben is right. It's a little suspect out there. Now Jonas Sinkers, he balled out.
Yeah,
So
and Antonio Clary. I mean, he was all over the field as well. So really excited to see him
yeah,
play
so
well. So I think there was definitely some bright spots, and I guess we have a few guys coming back as well, right?
right. So I mean, yeah, for sure. So what are y'all's thoughts on the we don't want to kill the defense with bad news, but I mean, I think they did. They held them to under 20 points, and I think if you can score 25 in this league, 26, you're gonna win games if you can hold them under 20. So I think they did their job. We got the win, and um, y'all want to talk about special teams?
Well, I still want to tie in something else on the defensive side of the ball. They had that
Okay.
one run for 43 yards, and I believe it was towards the end of the game. So on that one, I want to give another shout out to Dre Walker there. We easily could have just let them score and gotten the ball back and called it a day. Dre Walker chased this man down and saved a touchdown, and ultimately it saved 4 points on the board. They only scored a field goal on that, but I believe that was the 43-yard run. So you take that out of there, they're just over 100 yards rushing. So ultimately, I think we did a good job against their rushing attack, but we also put them in the position where they had to throw it more often. And just kind of hitting some of the highlights. Antonio Clary back for the first time in a long time. 8 total tackles. He had half a tackle for a loss for a yard. I mean, 3 unassisted and 5 assisted tackles. I mean, overall, it was pretty good. And then overall, Jonas Sanker, one of our best players out there, another one with 8 total tackles. So again, coming into the secondary, I think we're looking fine. I think Smiley and Cam Butler will get a little better. Cam Butler forced that fumble. Ultimately, someone else recovered it. We had 2 forced fumbles, only fell on 1. But I mean, they played clean. The defense had no penalties. So ultimately, the defense, the pressure scares me, and I hope we can figure out a way to dial up some pressure and, make them get the ball out a little quicker. And so, any final thoughts, Ben?
No, again, before we get to special teams, I don't have too much to say about special teams. What do you think about the penalties, Sean?
So we only had, I believe it was only 3 penalties, and they all were on the offensive side of the ball. So there was 2 for holding, and then 1 was a delayed hit out of bounds, which was kind of questionable, whatever. And that's the only 3 we had.
So that's a reason why I asked this is that's a great thing to see. Especially when you play a team like Richmond, so you want to see everything run. So it looks like there was discipline. They could have easily been undisciplined and committed a lot of different types of penalties that we've seen over the years. You could see. I felt like you could see a difference from year 1 to year 3 with the penalties.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a clean game overall.
Yeah, good game. I mean, I'm just glad we didn't get offsides.
Correct. And it's week 1. There's no preseason in college, so what you want to do is you want to execute your offense and play clean ball, and that's what we did. So on that side of the ball, I think we did great. So let's wrap up with some special teams. There's not a whole lot to talk about.
Will looked good.
Yeah, he missed that one field goal. It's
That's
hard
not
to
his
tell.
fault.
It looked like it was a low snap. Or just something was wrong with the snap. So if you take that away, he hit some good ones. Sparks looked good on the kickoff, man. And he had a few that didn't go through the end zone, but I don't know if looked like he was trying to keep it inside the field of play and force them to make a return. And both times he did it, we stopped him before the 20. So if that's something they're working on, it definitely worked in our favor. Clean on special teams as well. And again, with the return game, I think we got a 2-headed monster back there in the return game with Xavier Brown and Chris Tyree. If he can just touch the ball, that's all we need him to do is touch the ball, and I just want to see him be explosive. I mean, I think they just, even if they have to swap sides while the ball's in the air, just give Tyree the ball. Let's see what he can do. Everybody's talking about his speed. Unfortunate, we didn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, special teams, they did their jobs. We'll put 10 points on the board. Xavier Brown was on the kickoffs, and Antonio clearly with the punt returns. I thought he did well. So, no, it'll be interesting to see if Tyree gets a lot more touches in the special teams and see what he can actually do with his speed. So, yeah. But, no, glad we got a game. Glad we got the win. That's at the end of the day. Glad we got the win.
Yeah, it was great to see a win coming into week 2. Which let's talk about week 2.
Before we jump ahead, let's do our players of the game. So I'll lead us off here. I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Antonio Clary as my player of the game. First game back, he's a leader in that secondary. 8 total tackles, again 5 assisted, 3 unassisted. I liked what I saw. He was all over the field, and again doing some punt returns as well. For that reason, I got him as my player of the game.
Yeah, so my player of the game, everybody probably thinks it's the right answer is AC, but I'm going Kobe Pace. So all-purpose yards, 144 all-purpose yards, 93 rushing yards, 51 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. I just think that our offense is going to kind of run through him. That opens up AC to find the open receivers. So yeah, Kobe Pace, my player of the game.
Well, you got to give credit where credit's due. So I would say Ant. Um, just I feel like he gives a lot of hope to UVA fans that we have a guy for the quarterback position. That a lot of times that's one of the hardest positions to fill. So it's got to go to him. I hope he keeps on taking care of the ball and hope he gets those yards for us. So,
Nice.
any thoughts about the tush push before we move on?
I like it. The second one, we fumbled the ball from the snap. I don't know if the ball was wet or what, but we fumbled the second tush push.
So that was a pretty funny one. The video they zoomed in on it. It went. He didn't even touch it. Went straight through his legs.
Yeah, you could definitely tell something was off there, but I like it. They don't call it the tush push at UVA. We call it the Grady bunch.
The Grady bunch. All right.
All right.
So, all right, moving on to week 2. I've got to say that the more I've thought about this, might be one of the most important games of our season. I know it's Wake Forest. However, when we were talking earlier last week about the season being broken up into quarters, this is a big one. So it's important because, one, it's an ACC game. Also, this is going to be our first true test. I think this isn't Richmond. This is going to be a true test of what I think we're going to see throughout the year. So I really think this is definitely the second most important game of the year that we play. I think it's a must win, and I think if we can get the win and come into Maryland 2-0, y'all laughed at me, but getting the 4-0, you got to go 2-0 first. So.
Right. Well, I think also, like Ben, you said, this is a big game. We've never started 2-0 in Brilliant's career, so getting to 2-0 helps. Yeah, it's Wake Forest. We've lost 5 straight to them, dating back to what 2008. Since we've only played 5 times since then, so let's break the. I think we were all there last time in the CoStar game, weren't we?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's insane. But another thing is this is gonna be a tough game. We're going to Wake Forest, so we're not. It's a away game. Sean, how do you feel about AC coming into this game?
I definitely think it's going to be a test for Calandria, but I feel like he's going to be up for it. I mean, he's been in some big games last year, so I think he's ready. The coaching staff will do a great job preparing him, and as long as he does his job, and like we saw this week where he moved the ball quickly, spread it out to the receivers, had the ability to use his feet to get the yards that he needed to get, and play it safe. I mean, I like our chances, and I think as long as he commands the field, again, like he did against Richmond, we'll be in a good position.
Yeah, so this was a trap question that I asked you, Sean, because I really do agree with you that I think he is ready. He showed us last year in multiple situations that he can play at this level. So I've got confidence for him going into this game. We'd just like to see him continue being the guy that we saw against Richmond, and I know he can do that. We saw some rough games last year, but at the same time, we saw some really good games out of him last year. Louisville. He had a few more really good games, I thought. So he's got what he needs, and like I said, as long as there's balance in that defense or in that offense, excuse me, If Kobe Pace continues to play the way, and looking at his stat line, he looked like another great passing threat for those short throws and just him getting the ball and moving it up the field. So maybe we'll get to see Chris Tyree in this game as well. So there's a lot to be excited about. I think with our offense coming into Wake Forest, and our O line is going to be truly tested as well.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is the defense. Can they get off the field? That's going to be the big thing to get the ball back to Ant. But the defense has to get off the field because Wake Forest has a stout running back in Damon Claiborne, 17 carries on 135 yards. But if we can get off the field and the defense doesn't get tired, being out there so long, I think we have a good shot. I mean, and also Wake Forest is in a quarterback battle right now. They haven't even named a starter again, so it's. I think this is a good trap game for them. We come in there, we know who our players are, and we sneak one out.
What do y'all think about their play style? They're very much like a RPO team, and there's a lot of plays. I watched their condensed game against NCAT today, and it's a lot of holding the ball to see if he's actually going to give it to the running back. And it seemed very, very delayed to see if anybody comes open, and then he makes his mind up. What's y'all's thoughts on that? How do you think we can fare against that style of offense?
Is our corners going to bite on it? That's the big thing. Is our secondary going to bite on these RPOs? And if they bite, then they're going to hit the wide open receiver. But I think it's going to be what pressure we get off the defensive line.
So what I noticed and the little bit that I watched, so it'll be interesting to see which quarterback they start in week 2. They played in the shotgun a lot, so I think it's gonna be tough for our defensive line to get to them. But that, like you said, that's going to be dependent on our secondary not giving him options when he's making his reads for us to get time to get to him. So they appear to really like to pass the ball. Again, same situation that we had with Richmond. We don't really know what Wake Forest, what kind of team they really are based on who they played. North Carolina A&T, they looked pretty athletic, and it appeared they got off to a great start at the beginning of the game until they ran out of plays that they had pre-programmed. But it'll be interesting to see. So I think we're two very similar teams in terms of talent, if you ask me. I just think that this game is definitely winnable. That's I kind of want to change my perspective on saying that we win this game. I would more like to say we will win this game if we don't make mistakes on offense and our secondary shows up. So I know those are very easy things, but yeah, of course, if your offense is a mistake, you're going to win games. But again, we have to execute on both sides of the ball, and if we're going to win this game. And so, yeah, we will win this game if you see similar game style out of Ant. If the secondary shows up, it can shut them down, and we can get to the quarterback.
And I'll piggyback on that. It's going to come down to who can stop the run for both sides. I mean, Wake gave up, 230 yards of rushing last week. So really, and we put up 200 yards. So if we can get similar outputs, and it shows that Wake is vulnerable in the run, if we can dominate and get that run game going, it frees up Calandria to be able to make the right throws and doesn't put them in obvious passing downs all the time. And that's when you're going to see a lot of the good decision making is when he's not in obvious passing plays. And I think if we can dominate that rushing attack and kind of have a balanced game, I mean, Tony Elliott talks about it. He wants to be balanced. I mean, we were pretty balanced last week, and we got to keep that going. And that's how you're a successful football team, is if you can be balanced and the defense isn't waiting back there teeing off because they know you're going to run the ball or they know you can only pass the ball. So I think that, and then going with the defensive side of the RPO, we just got to be disciplined. And Tony Elliott talked about that in his press conference today, I believe, was just being disciplined. Don't be deceived by what they're doing and just stay disciplined on holding your position and forcing them to make the move. So overall, I'm excited. I think we definitely I think we're underdogs by 2.5 points, and that's just because it's an away game. I really think this could be a really good game, and it's going to be exciting to see who we truly are after this game.
Well, just looking at the box scores and just watching that game, the condensed version, we know who the starting quarterback's going to be. It's going to be Hank. From when he came in, the Kern, he was 1 for 3 in drives, 3 punts, and then the other when Hank came in, he had 5 scoring drives. So he's going to be the starter. I don't know why Wake Forest is doing this whole like we don't know who our starter is. We know who the starter is going to be. It's going to be Hank. So I mean, the kid can ball out. He had a good game, so it's going to come down to our secondary.
Yeah, Sean, what's the sim say?
So I ran our simulation, same setup as last week, and guys, I don't like it. I don't like the look of it. Very close matchup, but College Football 25 has us losing 17-14, and man, they really don't like our boy Anthony Calandry in this game because they have him throwing for another pair of interceptions.
Oof. Well, hopefully that's a trend, and we come out and we prove them wrong and get a W.
Yeah, we're hoping for the best. Anyway, what I'd like to ask you guys, unrelated to UVA, what were some of y'all? What was one of y'all's highlights for college football this past week?
Go ahead, Sean.
Oof. My highlight was just, if we're going UVA related, just being back at Scott and, being back home is what I'll call it. But being that I was there, I didn't have a lot of time to watch too much football, but watching Boston College and Bill O'Brien offense completely dominate Florida State. I mean, I watched 90% of that game last night, and they absolutely dominated. And Florida State fans are in a panic right now. I mean, you went from last year being upset because you got left out of the college football playoff and arguing you should have been in, to now you've lost 3 straight. That fan base has no idea which way is up, and they're talking about Mike Norvell, and he's not on the hot seat, but he's definitely got to find a way to get this train going in the right direction. But it's not one thing that's going wrong in Florida State. We're not here to talk about Florida State and break them down, but DJU is not the answer.
Mills?
So being down here in Georgia and visiting family, we went to a Georgia Clemson party, which was kind of split half and half. And I was talking to one of the dads of a Clemson fan, and he says Clemson says that they wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of like the start of moving on from Dabo. Not thrilled with Dabo and the whole portal thing, but yeah, I guess watching the Georgia's the real deal again, which is good for them. But also Miami, I like that the U is back, and I think we got some good college football get teams this year, and it's going to be fun to watch. The one game that I really enjoyed watching was the Notre Dame Texas A&M. Notre Dame looked good, and the last drive going down to scoring. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to watch that game.
Yeah, I got to say, some of the things you enjoy most about college football is seeing certain teams lose. But what I did like to see was just how it appears that how everybody pegged the ACC, or how the preseason ACC rankings, not just internally, just the ACC, seems to be really shook up right now, and it's got that to me that has a lot of draw to think that, well, maybe we won't be as bad in the ACC as we're predicted. So that's pretty exciting to see, and you want to continue to. I hope we continue to see that. And yeah, I agree with you about Miami being Florida. It seems like there may be a new sheriff in town.
Someone else owns that state now. But we left one thing out, and we're a Virginia podcast, so of course we got to talk about Virginia Tech rolling into Nashville and not coming home with the W. We were watching that game as we were headed down to Charlottesville, and you never want to root for a team to lose unless it's Tech. And it was great to see them lose. Everybody was talking about how great they're going to be, and they're sleepers for the college football playoff, and they go down and lose to the bottom barrel of the SEC. So that was wonderful to see, and it's a great day when Tech loses and Virginia wins.
Yeah. So they got the first loss, so it's always good. To see, like you said, see Tech lose. I mean, well, do my little JMU got a W, so got that. That's good. They played Charlotte, so we'll see. I think as the Virginia schools with Liberty, JMU, UVA, Virginia Tech. I mean, the state itself has some decent schools. I mean, Liberty and JMU both received some votes in the new polling. Um, we were projected to win 2 games in most people's eyes, so here's our first one. We're halfway there. So hopefully we get 6. So I like that college football's back, and week 2 is going to be a fun week.
Wow, glad you kept that one under a minute. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, I mean, I think Virginia-wise, I think it's going to be a great game against Wake. It would be a fun one to go on the road and see, but I think we're going to go down and handle business. Again, going over Boston College, beating Florida State, that's going to bring it very interesting for when they come into town, and hopefully we might be able to see a different team when they come to see us. But overall,
Y'all
it's
want to do
excited.
some score predictions?
No, I hated our last score predictions. We were all wrong.
No, I'm just saying. What is the score prediction of the Wake Forest UVA game?
Well, just throwing a number out the sky, I'm going to go 21-14, Virginia.
All right.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
I'm going 23-20 last second field goal by Will.
Calandra comes out slinging. I'm gonna say we put up 30 plus. And our defense doesn't hold up and gives up 30 plus as well. So I think this is going to come down to the end. Again, thank you for joining us on the Cardiac Who's podcast this week. Should be back every Thursday.
Follow us on X at Cardiac Who's. Tweet at us. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know you're out there listening. We'd love to hear your feedback. At the end of the day, go Who's.
Go Who's.
Go Who's.